Hello everyone, we are from Tulip Group will presenting about our discussion about freeze drying. Before we start the presentation, let me introduce our team. The first is Yolanda with ID number 25. Second, there is Juwita with ID number 34. Third, there is Yuwina with ID number 46. Fourth, there is me, Laras with ID number 52. Last but not least, there is Dini with ID number 66. Next, the list of content of our presentation are definition of freeze drying, process of freeze drying, anatomy freeze drying mechanism, advantage and disadvantage, and application of freeze drying in foodstuff. Freeze drying is a drying process in which the solvent, usually water, and or the suspension medium is crystallized at a low temperature and thereafter sublimated from the solid state directly into the vapor phase.
First, wash and slice the first vegetable where other preprocessed of material evenly and load them into the product tray. The material is transported to the quick freezing room for freezing, bake lonely and dried. In about 2 to 3 hours, the material will be completely frozen to minus 35 degrees. The sensor has no detective data to the PLC and is played of the tutorial. The frozen material is then transported to the freeze-dried chamber. The chamber is closed and it is ready to freeze-dry with a material temperature reaches the set temperature. The product is dried. At this time, it is necessary to lower the temperature of the shelf and release the vacuum for discharging. After discharging, the frost on the water vapor collector needs to be defrosted for the next batch of production. Therefore, the freeze-drying must be produced in batch and the interval between each batch is about 1 to 2 hours. Freeze-dried materials need to be baked quickly. The like authors, the product is 100% natural, does not contain any additive, no preservative, no collapse, no color change, contain 89% of nutritional ingredient biologically active of effective substance. Freeze drying technology is the most promising technology in the fields of food, medicine, and biological products.
So next I'm gonna go over a few things parts of the freeze dryer. So the first, display or control panel, food trays, vacuum hose, tray rack, chamber, housing, and then the last is refrigeration unit. Then for an explanation about the part of freeze dryer are, the first is display or control panel to regulate and monitor temperature, pressure, time, and other parameters during the drying process. 2 food trays to hold the food during drying. 3 vacuum hose that goes to the vacuum pump, and then tray rack to hold multiple trays. And chamber when the frozen product is placed. Housing, and the last one is refrigeration unit to remove unwanted heat from one place and discharge it into another.
How freeze drying works. When the freeze dryer is turned on, the chiller unit begins and it starts to cool down the chamber. When the temperature inside the chamber reaches 0 degrees, the vacuum pump turns on and starts the vacuum freezing cycle. During the freezing cycle, the vacuum pump must get down to about 400 to 500 milliliters. If it doesn't, the cycle may not be sufficient. Once the temperature reaches minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the food becomes rock hard and the heating pad will start turning on to start the drying cycle. As the trays of the food heat up, the frozen water within the food starts to sublimate, and that's basically when it goes from solid directly to vapor. Each step it skips over the liquid phase. As it does this and as the vacuum pump is working some of the water and some of the food particulate will suck into the vacuum.
As the water vapor inside the chamber contacts the walls of the chamber, because it's extremely cold, it'll turn to ice, and you will see an ice ring will start to grow inside your chamber. As a chamber fills with the water vapor, the vacuum will decrease because the air pressure inside the chamber due to the water vapor will increase. There's a pressure sensor that's underneath the tree trunk in your tray that monitor this pressure change and adjust the necessary timing. At a particular point in time, as a change in pressure decreases within the chamber, the system will enter the time final dry cycle. At the end of the final cycle, it's up to the operator to inspect the dryness of the food and either complete the cycle or add additional time to finish the cycle. Next, advantages and disadvantages. For advantages, 1. Operates at low temperatures, stable products under oxidation conditions, removal of most microbiological contamination, natural preservation without the use of preservatives, and maintaining 90% of the original shape, color, aromas, nutritional values, and vitamins. Loss of 95 to 98% of water. And for disadvantages, 1. Higher energy consumption, long processing time, expensive operation, and the last one, poor ingredient protection due to porous coating.
This is the example application of freeze drying in foodstuff. And finally, that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention, and we hope this presentation is useful for everyone.